The internet has been a transformative force in the way we communicate and interact with each other. It's enabled greater access to knowledge and information across the globe and empowered individuals. The neutral infrastructure underpinning it is supposed to be free from government influence or corporate censorship, but the internet as we know it is under threat.
Sony Music has brought a legal attack against a critical part of the internet's infrastructure, the service known as a domain name system, or DNS Resolver.
This is a really bad precedent.
With Sony paving the way with this attack,
It's possible for companies to censor pretty much whatever they want, and that's terrifying.
in this video, we'll explain why Sony is attacking critical infrastructure of the internet, what this means for the future of free online expression and access to information, and what you can do to help. Let's start by understanding what a DNS resolver is. DNS, or the domain name system, is a lookup system responsible for converting human-readable domain names like google.com into the format that computers need to communicate with each other. IP addresses. DNS resolvers are basically the phone book of the internet.
A DNS resolver is like a neutral, automatic signpost.
Any address you type into your URL bar automatically gets sent off to your DNS resolver, and that resolver then replies with the website's IP address that will take you to the website you want to visit. Most people by default will use the DNS resolver run by their internet service provider, or ISP. The problem with this is that ISPs are notorious for collecting and selling their users' data. Given that your DNS resolver sees every URL you're visiting, that's a lot of data that they can collect about you. But you can choose a different DNS resolver, and one that is privacy protecting, such as Quad9. They're a non-profit that doesn't collect any search queries or IP addresses, and they voluntarily chose to rehome themselves in Switzerland, which has extremely strict privacy protection rules. It's no longer a question of Quad9 making promises about what they will and won't do with your data. They're bound by Swiss laws that protect this data. But now, Sony has decided to make this neutral infrastructure of the internet a tool for censoring content in a precedent-setting case.
They have claimed that we need to stop resolving a certain domain name because there is intellectual property on that domain name. Otherwise, we are party to the copyright infringement.
John Todd is the general manager of Quad9, and he explained to us how Quad9 is simply conveying public information on the public internet, just like any recursive resolver does. Quad9 handles domain names only, and those names don't infringe on Sony's copyrights. In fact, no information that Quad9 handles infringes on Sony's copyrights. Despite this, Sony is holding Quad9 liable for copyright information that appears on the website canna.to.
We don't move any of that data. We don't even know what the data is. They're just one of a billion different names out there on the internet.
It's like holding an electricity company liable because someone did something illegal using that electricity, or charging a pen manufacturer with fraud because someone forged documents while using their product.
If you even resolve the name, you are culpable.
How can they justify that? Resolving the name is not taking someone's IP. It's not downloading someone's IP. It's literally just resolving an IP address.
Yeah, I know.
Furthermore, Sony wants the entire website blocked because of just one instance of copyright infringement on the website, a single album that apparently is linked on there.
Get in touch with the hoster and get them to take down the content. But blocking the entire domain makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Danielle Deibler is the Chief Security Officer at Quad9, and she explained to us that even if Sony was unsuccessful at having the content removed from the website itself,
We are still not the next person to go down to, right? Go to the registrar. Go to somebody else that's in the value chain that's actually getting money from somebody.
Quad9 has no business relationship with anyone who uses their service. It's completely free to use, and you don't even need to sign up with them. Someone just needs to go to the DNS settings on their router or device and put in 9.9.9.9. That's it. They provide a public service by offering an alternative to your ISP's resolver, while also improving the privacy and security of their users.
All we care about is protecting the user, and we don't have to have any relationship with you to protect you.
Regardless, the German courts have classified Quad9 as an enabler of this copyright infringement. There are varying degrees of enablement.
One is more direct, that you're actively doing something wrong. One is that you're just not stopping the supposedly bad thing from happening.
Nadia is the CEO of Quad9, and she said that the court in Leipzig interpreted their culpability in the most incriminating way possible.
It classed us as like a wrongdoer.
Which is shocking for neutral infrastructure that isn't even hosting any content.
We see that as a serious threat to internet stability and freedom. If it's possible for corporate entities to force unrelated third parties to block parts of the internet, that's a problem.
Most internet operators will have no choice but to block a website at the mere request of a company just to keep from being sued into bankruptcy. They will have paved the way for a potentially unlimited number of additional censorship demands.
And that list is going to become very, very long, very, very quickly.
This initial lawsuit was directed to Quad 9, but the precedent would apply to anyone running a DNS resolver, which could be an ISP, a hospital, a school, even an individual. You don't even need to outsource your DNS lookups to one of these entities. You could just as easily be running a local DNS resolver that talks to the authoritative name servers on the internet directly itself.
Suddenly, you could become liable for resolving things that some company doesn't want you to resolve, and they can sue you directly.
Similarly, Quad 9's malware protections and recursive DNS in general act very similarly to things like antivirus software and network firewalls. If it's possible to force Quad 9 to block sites, then it's not a huge leap that these censorship demands will soon be placed on other parts of the technology stack. This not only exposes individuals and small companies to copyright lawsuits, but it's a tool that can be used for centralizing the control of information, which is a very scary prospect. A world where global censorship of information is possible at the infrastructure level is a chilling one.
This infrastructure has to be neutral. It has to be reliable. We have to be able to trust it. We have to know that the people who are providing infrastructure are not censoring information.
Global censorship is dangerous for so many reasons.
It doesn't allow for freedom of expression. It doesn't allow for people to have autonomy. It doesn't allow for things that build better democracies like dissent and agitation.
What happens if DNS resolvers have to respond to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that want us to censor something on the internet?
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
It would be enough for some authoritarian or ideologue to threaten us with a similar lawsuit because they wanted something taken down on ideological grounds.
And this undermines what is so important about the internet, the free flow of ideas.
The internet is the connective tissue of fully digitalized society. We can't be the arbitrators of who can and cannot access information on the internet. That's too much power to put in anyone's hands.
That is fundamentally against the mission of what Quad 9 is trying to do.
What if we ruin a legitimate business because a competitor came and told us, you have to block this site, otherwise we're going to sue you? What if we censor someone's ability to participate in the democratic dialogue because of some other well-resourced commercial or political entity that wants to censor on those grounds? We can't do that.
Not only do we not have the resources, but we're not the right place on the internet to block this content.
But if they don't block this content, they would face hefty fines and ultimately a prison sentence. Technically, as the ruling was made in a German court, it only applies to German users. But the court also said that a global blocking order is reasonable and warranted, and in line with Sony Music's demands. So a single court in one country should get to dictate what information should be available to people all over the world? That doesn't seem problematic at all. Blocking this content for everyone would mean
extending the violation of civil rights globally. If that happens, it could become everyday practice for intellectual property holders anywhere in the world to dictate lists of websites to be censored.
So instead, Quad 9 has had to implement costly filtering mechanisms targeting German users, like adding
An expensive and performance-degrading function to distinguish queries which originated in Germany. Public resources are co-opted to the benefit of a private party and the detriment of the public.
By targeting DNS resolvers, Sony pushes the cost of their copyright enforcement onto third parties.
Then they don't have to go and chase the people or the organizations that actually are putting up the content. We're an easy target. We're a small organization.
And they picked on us because they didn't want to fight Google. They didn't want to fight DNS Filter, who had just raised $30 million. We don't have $30 million. So if you want to set a precedent, set it with the weakest player.
As soon as we moved to Zurich, the lawsuit was essentially filed against us to allow corporate control of the internet, and they're using us as the test case.
Quad 9 chose Switzerland as their base specifically because they're not part of the EU, but they didn't anticipate civil suits being brought against them, which is allowed due to something called the Lugano Convention. Then there's the fact that this German ruling actually goes against EU law, which makes it unequivocally clear that DNS resolvers shouldn't be held liable for any content hosting, because they're not hosting any content. Germany is part of the EU, so their court rulings should be in line with EU mandates.
It's not very easy to know as a law-abiding organization which instance do you actually listen to.
It's a mystery to us as to why the court ruled as it did, but we're going to continue the appeal process. We spent a huge amount of money defending ourselves with this. Ultimately, I believe we will prevail, but it's going to cost us a huge amount of time and stress.
Anything that threatens our ability to deliver on our mission, of course we're going to fight that.
So how can you help?
We're completely funded by donations and sponsorships.
But also spread the word. This is a really important case that I think is underappreciated.
Our place is to make sure that people have access to information, whatever the ideology it is. If we don't fight, I don't think anyone else will.
The battle for internet freedom rages on, with Quad 9 at the tip of the spear, and the outcome could have far-reaching consequences for the future of the internet. I hope Quad 9 is successful.
You can't expect us to act like an internet censorship police. It's so important to keep this internet that we depend on healthy and free and accessible for everyone.
Please spread the word. That also really helps our channel grow, and it helps us spread awareness about important issues such as this one. Thank you so much for your support and for watching through till the end.